Welcome back to One Set of Footprints podcast. I'm Matt, your host. Not everyone in the fostering world has lived it, but someone chooses to stand in it anyway. Today's guest is someone who didn't grow up in care, wasn't fostered and wasn't adopted, but made a conscious decision to step into the space, to listen, to learn and to challenge what he saw. Dan from Epic Fostering has sat on fostering panels, being part of the decision-making process and seeing the system from inside, the structure behind the stories and the reality behind the paperwork. But understanding the system wasn't enough, so he built something. Through his CIC, Epic Support, Dan is working to bridge the gap between services and real-life support, turning insight into action and conversations into change. And that's what this podcast is all about. Real voices, real perspectives and honest conversation that don't get hidden behind closed doors. This episode isn't about speaking for people, it's about standing with them, it's about accountability, it's about doing better, and it's about what happens when someone chooses to use their position to make a difference. This is Dan's story. Thanks for listening. Hi Dan, for listeners meeting you for the first time, can you introduce yourself?
Of course. Thanks, Matt. Thanks for inviting me on. I'm Dan Buxall Simpson, and I'm the founder of the Epic Family CIC based in mid-Devon. I'm also a foster parent to a 4 and 6 year old. I'm a special guardian to a 5 and 10 year old. I'm an independent fostering panel vice chair. I'm a trustee of a children's counselling charity. I'm a chair of governors. And that's about it at the moment, Matt.
God. You're doing a lot then. Just get started, mate. What inspired you to create Epic Family CIC then?
The Epic Family CIC was created from, I guess, my experience in the voluntary sector. So I've been involved in charities that are involved in children, but really fueled from my fostering experience and my interest in supporting vulnerable children and young people. Although that said, it was never supposed to be a fostering service, which is part of the organisation. It was originally about keeping vulnerable children in mainstream education. So, yeah.
That's amazing. I literally just had someone on about mainstream education around fostering as well. So yeah, no, amazing. I know what that entails. So yeah, it's a lot of work that goes into that. What made you start first fostering then? Because obviously you were fostering before. You were saying obviously you were fostering before starting Epic Family. What made you first start fostering?
Well, my last business grew kind of unintentionally. So my last business was very different. It was hospitality, predominantly pubs. We lived in pubs, and then as the business grew, we moved out of a pub and moved into a house and had our first Christmas off for some time, and the local authority were heavily pushing fostering on social media. And this Christmas Day, my husband and I were sat in our house, bored to death. And so I flippantly said, let's explore fostering. We wouldn't be bored next Christmas. And although that wasn't kind of the real original seeds of the thought, because I've always been curious about fostering and in particular adoption, but never been in a position to really pursue it. In that moment, that social media campaign perked my interest, because actually we had an opportunity where our circumstances did lend itself to the possibility of welcoming children into our home. So yeah, that's kind of how it started. And I am somebody that gets an idea and I go and give it a go. I'm not a talker, I'm a doer. Yeah. So we had that conversation Christmas Day. We had a social worker on the phone within a week in between Christmas and New Year. And then she was in our house the week after New Year. And then we were in the assessment and approved by the July. So yeah, we just got on and did it.
How long have you been fostering for now?
We've been fostering for about 8 years.
Wow. That's amazing. How did you find the process? Was it difficult?
I really enjoyed the process, partly because I can talk about myself all day long. No, I found it quite reflective and I learned a lot from it. So the more I learned about therapeutic styles and being trauma-informed, all stuff that I'd never heard of and was never aware of, the more hungry I was to learn more. Though my husband, who wasn't my husband at the time, he was my partner, did find it very intrusive and felt fairly uncomfortable through it. So we had different experiences, really. He got through it but felt it was very intrusive. I didn't find it intrusive because I'm an open type person anyway. I quite enjoyed it. Though when we went to fostering panels, so what you do is you go through your assessment and then your assessment is presented to a fostering panel. So all the paperwork from your assessment, you as the applicant and your supervising your assessing social worker are all presented to a panel of people who then ask you some questions. We had a bit of a wobbly experience at panel, to the point where we did eventually make a complaint and got an apology from panel and an acknowledgement that they'd learned from the feedback. And it's that experience that actually later on led me into becoming a panel member myself, because I didn't want other people to experience panel in the way that we had. And I thought I could make a difference.
Tell me if you don't want to speak about it, but what was it like as a gay couple trying to game foster?
The assessment was all fine. They do explore it. So they explore, if you foster a girl who's going to talk about the intimate care and, the body development and all that, who's going to lead on that, where would you gain support from to do that? So they do explore it as a same-sex male couple, as they would a same-sex female couple or any other different types of couples.
Yep.
At panel, the questioning style from the last panel member, his tone of voice changed in his questioning compared to the others. And he was a little bit finger wagging at panel and kind of saying, how are you going to potentially look after 3 children and run your business and do this and do that and do the other? Because I've always been involved in voluntary and community work as well. As well as meet the needs of children. And his style of asking that question, although it was a really valid question, it was the way it was presented. It felt quite abrupt, and there was some curiosity on actually, has he got a problem with us? Yeah. Has he got a problem with me? Because I was a town councillor back then, and there was some political stuff going on that was in the press that he might have been aware of. So we kind of explored that in our complaint. We're just curious, actually, has this person got a problem with a same-sex couple, or is it my town council? Is there a problem? And then I think that because of us kind of highlighting those possibilities, I think they've maybe panicked slightly, but they did explore it, and the panel chair came out to see us at home and apologised for the fact that we felt that we had to ask that question in the first place.
Yeah. Yeah, because it must have been quite a nerve-wracking situation to go into already being a gay couple, and that's not me judging. That's just what it was like 8 years ago. It's thankfully more acceptable now, and it's talked about a lot more now. So yeah, I can understand you being quite anxious with the whole process anyway. So massive well done for sticking up for yourself and fighting that, mate.
Well, I think it was I think it was just as accepting then, to be fair, but kind of you wonder when somebody on a panel sticks out a bit and their style changes compared to everybody else, you kind of wonder what is that about. So rightly or wrongly, that was one of our thoughts. But actually the assessment itself as a same-sex couple was really well done.
Good.
And our assessor I'm still in touch with, although she's not doing social work anymore, which is part of the reason why I've founded a fostering service as part of our organisation, because she left 20 plus years social work career because I think she felt quite beaten really by a broken system. And that made me really sad when really good people leave their career, whether they're fostering households or whether they're social workers or other members of staff, to feel that trodden on and that broken, to actually just give up. everything you've worked for, that's not good. So
yeah, no, it is sad. Before I go on to your fostering agency, just because there's a lot going on with you and the Epic Family CIC, so just wanted to start with your what made you start the whole journey, which was your fostering at the end of the day. So just going back to that again quickly, what was the support like for yourselves and kids? Because obviously you're seeing fosterers nowadays, your experience just being an agency yourself, leaving left, right and centre, and there's a hell of a lack of foster placements available, and kids are just ending up in residential care, which is higher cost and it's more bad outcome for the child. So, what support do you get? Is talk the good, the bad, the ugly is completely up to you what you say, obviously. But
for me as a foster parent.
For you as a foster parent, not from an Epic family CIC, just from you as a foster parent for Devon County Council.
Well, I've got to be honest, Matt. I'm really well supported. I am really well supported, and I love fostering for Devon. I have good relationships within Devon, and yes, I have fallouts with people occasionally because I am quite determined to do the best by the young people that we are privileged to care for. So I won't hold back when I'm advocating for those young people. But blowing my own trumpet a bit, I guess I've become quite good at it. So
Do you feel... Just quick, sorry to interrupt, but just a quick question, because I'm wondering here, I was just thinking, with obviously you have an Epic Family CIC, and you having your own, obviously support group within that, which we'll get to in a minute, and also your own foster agency in it. Do you think that affects the way Devon County Council looks at you as a foster carer? And
possibly,
just because you are advocating for those things and you are louder than... no foster care is average, because they will do amazing jobs, but it's you know what I mean, because you're doing that, you're louder than everyone else, and because
you're not louder than everyone else.
Well, because
one of the louder ones,
because you are louder, because you're louder, because you advocate, because you're like me, Dan, because you're speaking up for your belief. Then I don't know if they pay more attention to that. I don't know. I'm not trying to take anything away from you at all.
Well, I guess
if they do, it's amazing. I want to hear about it.
I'm a go-getter. So where I said at the beginning, I get an idea or I think of something, I just go and do it. I don't rely on other people to do it. So, if one of my young people needs something, then I make sure it happens. And that can often mean that I end up doing other people's jobs for them just because it's easier, quicker. I have got into a little bit of trouble for doing that before. I've got to be careful. I've got to know my place. Yeah. I am conscious of that. And I do need reining in a little bit, but actually I just make sure it gets done. But I also appreciate that not everybody's like that. So there are people that
I'm just trying to think I'm just trying to think of people who don't have the fostering agency. Because you have the foster agency, you've got the links in between the core of Devon County Council, social services, basically, where the foster people won't, if that makes sense.
No, not necessarily. So the people that I deal with from my agency point of view is more of commissioning, which is nothing to do with it's a completely different angle, really. That doesn't benefit me as a foster parent, I don't think. I think, in honesty, Matt, I think my panel work has probably benefited me personally as a foster parent, because it's my panel work that's built my knowledge. But then when I reflect on my fostering journey, I've always been that way. So right from the beginning, when my knowledge wasn't anywhere near where it was now, I would go and find out. I would find out for myself.
That's amazing.
And I would
it's that passion, isn't it? It's that passion behind it.
I'd keep digging until I get there, and I would probe and be curious, and I would find out, okay, this is what we need for this young person. Where do I need to go to make this happen? And if that person can't do it, who can do it? And if they can't do it, how do I do it? Because I'll just do it.
Yeah, but it's then knowing the people within the panel and within the agencies and within Devon County Council who'd be able to do those things for you.
You go and hunt them out. So,
yeah, I don't know if like people, if I was just a foster carer and I didn't have, like, what I'm trying to say is, if I was just a foster carer and I didn't have a fostering agency and I didn't sit on a panel, which most foster carers obviously don't, like, are they getting the support they need? Like, because there's got, but what I'm trying to raise here, like, the whole point of this question is, what I'm trying to raise here is why are we having so many people leave the foster system, and why are so many children ending up in residential care, which is so costly?
What you've got to remember there, Matt, is everybody is different, so everybody needs different levels of support, and I guess that's why my approach is different, because actually it's about tailoring the services and the support to the individual needs of individual people, because blanket ways of working don't meet individual needs of people. And that's the difference. The support that I need from Devon is very different from the next foster parent that works from Devon, and therefore they don't necessarily get what they need. Although I have to say, Devon's on a journey, their fostering service is on a journey, and I've seen significant improvements in what they offer their fostering households over the last 12 months, because they've got a more permanent, stable team, which is really positive. So, yeah, but no. And you got to remember also, Matt, that this fostering agency that I founded, we were only registered in November, so it's really new.
Good. What made you, just to move on to that then, because like I'm glad you get the support, but what I wanted to try and point out, like, it's amazing that you do get the support, and I'm not here to, like, obviously I speak to you about my experience, and my listeners will know my experience with Devon County Council. Yeah. My podcast isn't here to slander, like, Devon County Council at all. It's to point out what's right, what's good, and what's not, and where are they failing and where are they not failing.
Yeah.
Basically, that's the whole point of it, and actually just to shine a light on it and to talk to people like yourselves.
Yeah, definitely.
So I'm glad that you get the support. What about the children? Obviously, I'm not sitting here expecting you to name people and tell me all, like, people's different stories, but do you feel like they get the support going from the situation that they've been in? Because let's face it, now day and age, 90% of kids that go into care have received some significant trauma to end up in there. So, like, I think it's to answer that question, is it or not?
No, they don't get the support that they need. I don't think that's exclusive to our local authority.
No, not
Devon. I think that's a national issue, that actually the system's overwhelmed with all of these children, and the local authorities are such complex kind of entities that no one can make a decision quick enough in the best interest of an individual child. And I know I keep coming back to that individuality bit, but that's really important, because we're all individual humans, and where children are concerned, that's really important. So, you've got a child where the local authority is the corporate parent, and no bugger can make a decision. And it's like, just make the decision. Just make it happen. And that's really sad. And then some decisions that are made by children are the wrong decisions, some real poor practice out there. Don't get me wrong, Matt, there's some really good practice out there as well, where some children's social workers are doing the best that they possibly can within that broken system. But there's a lot of poor practice, and that's a huge pressure on fostering households. Because the children,
I think it's just more constant. I've spoken about this time and time again.
Yeah.
I think it's all about solving the problem for the adult rather than thinking about the children. So it's all well and good, you guys having the support, but if the child's not having the support, then that's going to make it harder for the fosterer, surely.
Well, it's both, Matt. If you focus on one, then you're not you're not doing a great job.
Mm.
Actually, if the adults aren't getting the support, then how on earth do they support the young people?
Yeah.
If the young people aren't getting the support, then how on earth do they progress and get those better opportunities and those better outcomes, etc.? So you can't, it doesn't work just focusing on the child, or, I mean, ultimately we do it for the children. That is the ultimate goal, isn't it? That's what it should be about. But to be able to have those better outcomes for those children, it has to be full support for everybody. And I think the South West has been particularly poor on that, because I do see really great things happening in other parts of the country. The chap that you're speaking to in the Northwest, there's other services up there that are doing amazing things. And when I was exploring, whether to set up a fostering service in the Southwest, because to be honest, Matt, I didn't really want to do it. It wasn't on the top of my list to battle through Ofsted.
What made you do it then? What made you do it? Because like the way I see it at the moment, Dan, you're quite comfortable with running little businesses, and then obviously fostering, doing that amazing kind thing, and like looking after children, and obviously getting the support you're talking about, doing your charity and voluntary work, and sitting on panels and that. So yeah. What made you like do a fostering agency? What sparked that passion?
So about 2 years ago, my local authority was losing quite a lot of fostering households for some silly mistakes, really, some silly ways of working. And kind of they were going, and then off the back of that, loads of staff started leaving. And I was kind of, what on earth is going on? This is really sad. We need more fostering households, not less. And I was kind of signposting people to some other good services. If you can't work with Devon, then please don't stop fostering. Go and try these. And then those services weren't picking up the leads. And I was kind of, oh my gosh, nobody's doing anything about it. So it's like, right, okay, if no one else is going to sort this out, then bring it on. How do I set up a fostering agency? And that's where my learning had to very quickly pick up pace and compile an Ofsted application to register a service that is based specifically in the very heart of the South West to fill that gap, because the other services that I was signposting people to, some of those were in other parts of the country, and although they do have a presence down here, they don't really operate down here. I think speaking to some national providers, they kind of hit the M5 and it's like hitting a brick wall, which when you live down here, you do understand that a little bit.
I know of three. I don't want to name them, but I know of three in Devon. So like, yeah, there's a few. There is a couple, but I find it more what for my own research, I find the more smaller little like ones that have been done for a reason where they've seen the system and then like started one. A bit like when I was talking to Tim, and yourself. Those are the ones that are actually trying to advocate for change, and then you've got the bigger ones which are funded by like hedge funds and banks and that, which then can get into we could get into a massive conversation about how like pension funds and hedge funds and all that.
Well, yeah, I mean that makes us really different. I mean, there are some other independent services in the Southwest. Some are not for profit and set up as community interest companies and charities and things, but there are also some that are set up as traditional companies that are backed by investors and quite financially based. I did not want to be one of those, so we're intentionally set up as a community interest company without shares. So none of our directors have any shares. We can't be sold. That was really important to me.
Exactly like one set of footprints.
Yeah.
Exactly like me.
Yeah. And I mean, the other thing, it was about having an organisation that could build a range of wraparound services to directly support the children and the adults and all of the other people that are involved with supporting vulnerable children. It takes a village to raise a child. So actually all of those people involved, I think, deserve support. So that's kind of what Epic's about. It's about having in-house therapists for both children and adults, and it's about looking at ways of supporting teachers to keep these children in education and to support fostering families, regardless of who you foster for, Matt. I mean, we're about supporting, we just want people to foster. We actually don't care whether you foster for us or foster for somebody else. We just want you to feel really supported in looking after these children that need this, need this care, love, to be nurtured and these opportunities. So that's kind of what we're about. We're not a fostering agency. That's not kind of what we're about. Our mission, if you like, is about supporting vulnerable young children in the South West and those that support them. That's what we're about.
Love that. With you being, 4 months old now?
No, we're coming up as an organisation. We're coming up to 2 years old. So
I was just on about the agency part of it.
So the agency, the Epic Fostering was registered in October.
Okay, well, 5 months then. With you only being 5 months old, how have you found the first 5 months? Is it hard to set up a fostering agency? I guess it is.
Yes.
I bet it takes a lot of hard work and money, to be completely honest with you. So how did you go about all of that then? Because I put
my life savings into it. The application process took more than twice the amount of time we thought it would take. So Ofsted's written stuff says kind of 4-ish months. We banked on 6 months. It ended up being 12 months to the exact week, which causes its own problems with kind of employing people and giving positions and stuff. It's been quite a ride.
That's got to be part of the problem, isn't it? Yeah. In the aspect of, if we're losing these foster placements, obviously mainly probably because there's a lack of support for overall. But then if it's so hard to set up one, then and so costly, and there is no support to get set up one. I don't know, you said you use your life savings. I don't want to sit here and go into your personal finances, Dan, but if it is like thousands of pounds to set up one and you're not getting CIC grants, for example, then that's probably why there is a lack of foster placements. It needs to be easier to set up foster agencies. Yes, they need to go under the scrutiny of everything, but it shouldn't take you 12 months to sort out a form.
What's really funny, Matt, because in the summer last year, we had a generic email from Ofsted that, it might not have been an email, it might have been one of their news things that they just send out as part of their regular kind of updates. They said in this update, we're really behind on processing new applications at the moment because we've had such an influx in applications for residential children's homes. And I sat there thinking, so basically what you're saying in this message is you're prioritising all the children's homes over any fostering service, but actually aren't children better off in foster homes than
100%?
It just didn't. But that's kind of just one of the examples on where some of the Ofsted ways of working don't quite feel joined up.
I don't think I think that's half the problem. And for listeners who didn't listen to the one with me and Tim spoke about this, where the education department blame social services and social services blame the education department. They're not working together, and it's the same within that. What we're just talking about is it's these agencies that don't work together, even though they're involved in the same council, which is mind-boggling. And that's not just a local authority issue, that's nationally as well.
I think it's any big kind of organisation, they're just too big and too complicated, and then they struggle to talk internally to each other's departments, never mind, education talking to social care and the other way round. They're not structured in a way where they can communicate effectively within their own entity. which is sad, really. It makes it really difficult because there's lots and lots of really well-meaning, people with all good intentions that work within those establishments, but they're spending half of their working week battling the system that they find themselves within, which means that they're not necessarily as effective at their role as they could be, which makes it really difficult. So I do have empathy for kind of all sides of the fence. We've got to consider everybody. Nobody would go into, I don't know, for instance, nobody would go into a teaching role to teach badly, would they? Nobody would go into a social work role to be a poor social worker, surely.
Well, you'd hope not.
You would hope not. And so the good intentions there, but actually those people need the support to be able to effectively do their jobs, and that's where it slips up.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. What challenges do you face as what was your biggest challenge then, setting up your fostering agency and as a foster carer?
Biggest challenge setting up the fostering service would have been that I followed the stuff that's written by Ofsted to the letter, because I'm not a social worker and don't want to be a social worker and hadn't done it before. I used their written stuff as almost like my instruction book, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
But then actually Ofsted don't follow it. So I found that quite the challenge. Financially has been a little bit of a challenge because of the timeline. Yeah, that's a worry. And then my biggest challenge as a foster parent is some decisions that have been made for some of the children that we've looked after in the past weren't the right decisions. And now that my knowledge has increased, I think I beat myself up a little bit personally, that I wish I'd known what I know now then, and wish I could have made more of a difference to some of those decisions that were made for those children that I knew were wrong, but I didn't know how to back up my reasoning behind why those decisions were wrong. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. I think you do amazing just by having them in the first place, mate. So, don't beat yourself up about it. I think there's only so much foster carers can do and foster agencies can do, and the things that you're doing within Epic Family CIC is amazing, mate. Not just to have your own, doing your own fostering still, to then have your own foster agency, and then have the Epic support as well, which I'll get into as well. Yeah, it's amazing, mate. It's so much. So, don't beat yourself up about it, Dan. That's coming from someone who was in care and adopted as well, mate. Yeah, you do what you can for your children. And the difficult thing I find, from just doing outside research and being on some of the groups that I've been on, is the fosterers have an emotional attachment, because obviously they're doing it with this passion and they want to help these kids and that. They have an emotional attachment to these kids, and when they leave or when they have to go on to other things or get taken out, because that's not in the fosterer's control, that's in the local authority's control. So if a local authority wants to move a child, they can. So it can be quite hard, and I think some foster families beat themselves up. So to any foster family listening to this, and including yourself, Dan, don't beat yourself up, mate. You do everything you can for those children, and then it's down to the local authority to make that decision.
Well, I think we all just strive to be better, don't we?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, 100%.
And these kids deserve that. They deserve that passion and that determination for us to provide the very best for them. And at the end of the day, we are all human. We all make mistakes.
100%. And there's a lot of stigma around people who've been in care as well, and people who've been adopted, because obviously they're normally the highest statistics for every bad thing in this country. So there is a lot of stigma, and there's a lot of taboo about talking about it. So and I think that's having conversations like this is a really good start of trying to break that taboo, mate. What type of supports makes the biggest real difference for you with your agency and your foster care?
Oh, what makes the biggest? I think having an empathic approach, really understanding and accepting that actually we are all human. Kids are human, they're going to make mistakes. Adults are human, they're going to make mistakes. And actually we have something called Epic Listeners that are basically an empathic ear. They're there to just let people vent, not be judged, and to then kindly signpost, whether that's to more formal internal services, whether it's external formal services, or whether it's to help provide training or signpost to external training. It's kind of that wraparound suite of services. It's a bit of a journey, and I guess it does start from that empathic ear point of view. It's like, let's have a chat about it. Tell me what's going on, and actually for somebody to just listen and be responsive in that non-judgmental way. I think that's the most powerful type of support, because we all need to vent.
Yeah.
The cap needs to be unscrewed and it all needs to come out, but actually we shouldn't be judged for that.
What kind of support do you think you get from the local authority that's most helpful, rather than the support that you offer?
We're very lucky. We have the most amazing supervising social worker, where we can have a really good Barney about something and not hold it against each other. She can tell me off. I wouldn't say tell her off, but I can
challenge her,
and she will reflect. And there's been some times where she's come back to me and said, well, actually, I've thought about what we've talked about, and you're right, and I was wrong in the moment, and I really appreciate that we could have that conversation. So we learn from each other. So we are very, very fortunate to have the supervising social worker that we do have. Yeah.
No, I just wanted to highlight the good as well, because I think I can be quite guilty of speaking about bad things in fostering. So I do want to highlight what works and what is good. What pressures aren't talked about enough, then, do you think?
What, in a public, kind of what the public wouldn't necessarily be aware of?
Yeah. So what the public wouldn't be aware of, what pressures you come under as an agency, or more
the paperwork, the regs, and the national minimum standards, and the learning and the covering your back kind of stuff. The pressure that puts on fostering households is immense. So, for instance, you'll often hear special guardians, and obviously we're special guardians to two kids that we originally fostered as well. Mm-hmm. A lot of special guardians will say, well, foster parents get paid for doing exactly the same. That's not actually true, because foster parents are expected to do regular recordings and daily logs. They're expected to attend lots of care-related meetings throughout, week in, week out. We're expected to have health and safety visits at home. We're expected to have monthly supervision at home. We're expected to invite loads of different professionals into our homes. As a special guardian, you're not expected to do much, if any, of that.
Cool. Yeah, there is a lot of, what's the word I'm looking for? Admin. I think that, there is a lot of admin to it, but then I suppose it's to try and obviously keep an eye on the child of what progression or not they're making and all that lot. So I kind of understand it, but there is that. I suppose it comes out that judgment feeling.
Yeah, there's lots of reasons behind it, Matt. It's about creating a life story record for the child. So, you've talked about accessing your own records. So it's about being mindful that, you're creating something that your young person may read later in life. It's about safeguarding yourself as an adult and your family. It's about safeguarding the child. It is about, documenting those plans in the best interest of the young person. There's a long list of reasons why the admin is really, really important, but I guess the public that don't know an awful lot about fostering wouldn't be aware of all of that side, because that you get introduced to that through kind of your inquiry and assessment stage.
Yeah. I suppose it's just a lot of red tape, it seems.
It can be, but there's good. I mean, what I would say there is our approach on that is not everybody's good at, for instance, writing a report. So actually, could we be creative with somebody dictating a report, or could somebody just record themselves on a video and then we help them make that report? Or, it's about being creative to help people, because, admin isn't everybody's forte. So how do we support that? Because they're bloody great parents, but might be crap at the paperwork. So let's support them with the paperwork. So everybody learns differently, so that, we're expected to take part in lots of different training. Some people learn better one-on-one, some people learn better in groups. So it's actually making sure that you have various ways of delivering these bits to individual people. Because again, a blanket approach doesn't suit everybody, does it? Because we all learn in different ways.
Definitely, and I couldn't agree more. It just comes back to the very first point we were making about the support that foster and agencies have. And it's how you do that support as well, because I think local authorities or even nationally just look at it as a cost rather than, I speak about this a lot. I think local authority and, nationally, they're very reactive rather than preventive. So they're willing to, look, when they have to spend the money, they will. But when they don't have to spend the money, they won't. But if they did spend the money, it would prevent them going down the roads that most care people do, or majority of care people do, sadly, which is a very small population. What are you most proud of with Epic Family CIC?
Getting through the Ofsted application. Actually, it didn't really, getting that registration, it didn't dawn on me until probably about 6 to 8 weeks later, actually, what I'd achieved. And it was only reflecting on the journey and kind of listening to people say, bloody hell, you're the founder of an independent fostering agency. It's like, yeah. So actually it is quite the achievement, and it's taken a little while for that to really
sink in.
Yeah. So I think I should be proud of that.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100% you should be proud of that. Just going on to Epic support, what support do you offer then? Because obviously you're just talking about like training and all that lot. Is it just support for fosterers, or is it support for the children as well?
So we're at the very early stages of developing some programs for supporting all those different people that are involved with vulnerable children in the South West. So it's not just about children in care. So you could be a biological parent, you could be a special guardian, you could be a teacher or teaching assistant, or you could be a social worker, you could be anybody really that's involved with a vulnerable child. Then we'd say, right, reach out to us, come for a chat, we'll be that empathic ear for you, and we'll see how we can help. We'll figure it out. So that's what Epic Support's about. It does kind of link through to fostering and links through to Epic Mentoring, which is kind of another area which is predominantly around education. So, but I'm just thinking, Matt, you just touched on that reactive approach. Something we're doing with our fostering households is we put quite a lot of support around each household, literally from day one.
Mm-hmm.
What can happen in other services is you get your supervising social worker, and the child has their children's social worker from the host local authority.
Mm-hmm.
And that's more or less it, to be honest. What we do, though, is we put other people from day one around the fostering household. So we attach an Epic listener from day one. So you've got that non-judgmental ear, as well as the supervising social worker, obviously.
Yeah.
We also attach a therapist to the household. And that's not to give therapy from day one, but actually if it needs to progress to formal counselling or some sort of formal therapy, then they're already there. They already have the relationship with that household. And we put a children's support worker in that is more like the empathic listener for the child, really, but we'll also do some practical support to help and support the adult. So
that is a big web of support. And I was just about to ask, how do you fund all that then?
It's built into our package. So the local authorities pay us to look after their children, just like they do any other, and we just build it in. It's part of the model.
Amazing.
So what we'll never do is go back to the local authority and say, well, actually, we need a bit more money for some counselling.
Yeah.
And then the local authority will sit on it for weeks, and then we'll go back and say,
probably
we've not
say no.
heard anything. We need some money to get some counselling.
Yeah, probably say no.
And then 3 months later, they're like, well, we don't know who authorises that, or we haven't got the money, or I don't know.
It seems to be a little turn towards more, like what I've noticed in the last couple of years compared to when I was in care, is it seems to be more of a turn towards these smaller, like fostering agencies that are offering the support that the local authorities should really offer from day dot, if you know what I mean. So with me I was in care under Devon County Council, I didn't go to a foster agency. So it was, the support I got was very different compared to what the support I would got if I was fostered in Free Circles or Epic Fostering. So it's a lottery, and that's what I don't like about it. It's like when I was talking to Tim the other day, and sorry I keep referring back to him, but it's the last conversation I had about fostering. It's like I wish I got fostered by them, because I know I would be getting the support that with my care records and everything that I'm suffering lack of support with now. So like it is just a lottery, and it's sad that a kid, he's been suffering trauma and it's not their fault, is put in this situation of a lottery of what agency they're going to go to, and they're depending on what agency they go to or whether they end up in residential care or not. It's very much dependent on how their life's going to turn out, which is very sad in my eyes.
It is very sad. I agree, Matt, that shouldn't be the way it is. And, I hope that we can make a difference in the South West with our approach. But yeah, realistically, there are going to be children in other services where their approach is unfortunately different. Some in a positive light, and some maybe not so.
Yeah, it's been in the news a lot recently about like foster placements, and I think it just like, and you always see a lot about adults being supported and other foster are being supported. You don't see very much about the kid, and I really do think we need to start looking at supporting that child a little bit more. If anything, more than what the foster parents are getting supported, because I think we need to remember here, they already go through scrutiny to be a foster placement person, to be a foster carer anyway. Obviously, you have to go through the panel and everything anyway, so you're already going through a load of scrutiny. So I think it needs to be more concentrated on what support these children have. I think every foster agency should be forced to have a trauma-informed person there, or a therapist there, or have that social worker there, or like have the things in place that Epic Fostering have and Free Circles have.
Well, I mean, there's a statutory obligation for them to have their social workers, but then you do hear that sometimes there isn't a social worker, and you kind of think, how's that even possible in today's world? Because actually it's a statutory requirement. But I think it will become a statutory requirement to have some of those other roles as well, longer term. But whether that's in my time, I don't know.
Well, that's what one set of footprints is all about. Is actually starting to think, well, let's think about this child like more, and let's think of what we can actually do to support this child to prevent the future costs.
Yeah,
because it's massive. It's I mean, if you're not supporting a child when they're younger, you're going to end up spending thousands on them when they end up going prison, care, drug addiction, alcohol addiction. It's shocking.
Yeah.
Where do you feel there's room for improvement in like the foster agency? Because you're in the inside. Like this is what I enjoy about having these conversations with foster carers and foster agencies, because we're on both sides of the loops. Obviously, you're the one caring for the child, and I'm like the child because I've been through the care system. So obviously we've both got slightly different experiences of it. So what do you think needs changing?
I think the not-for-profit thing can only be a positive thing. Wales have gone that way already, so that decisions that are made, certainly in independent foster agencies, can't be made because of, can't be financially motivated. So although there will always be financial reasons, because if the money ain't there, the money ain't there. But actually, if it's financially motivated decisions that go against a decision for a young person, that's not good. That shouldn't happen. So I think
I disagree with them. Like, I hate this phrase of money not being there, because like when you sit there and look it up of the facts of it all, and how the link between care and prison, the link between care and homelessness, and the cost of it, the money's there. It's just getting misspent. That's yeah. The money's there. It's just getting misspent and completely in the wrong place. But yeah, no, I couldn't agree with you more, mate.
And I think by us being a CIC, part of our model is obviously Epic Fostering is funded predominantly through the income that we gain from the local authorities. But actually, the other stuff that we wrap around that, so Epic support and Epic mentoring, is very much based on the fact that we are a community interest company and we can access grants. So we've literally just received some brilliant news from our local town council from where we're based. They've just approved a grant of £3,000 towards our annual rent costs for the office. So, that's £3,000 that we can allocate towards some therapy or something else that actually directly benefits the kids. So that kind of way of working and that creativity really floats my boat. And I think that's why you will find that actually more private entities that crop up are able to develop some of those additional services because they can fund it in a more creative way. It still comes via a council, which is ironic, isn't it?
Well, yeah, this is what I mean. It's mad how it takes people who've experienced it to then start something for then the people to actually get support, if you know what I mean. So like obviously you've experienced like being a fosterer and now running your own foster, which has then made you want to then start your own foster agency. Like obviously I've experienced care and being adopted and everything like that. That's brought to me, so that's why I've started One Set of Footprints advocating for change. So it's odd that it has to be people that have been through it to then like get the money off the council, which then the council could put in place themselves. But there you go.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, our town council doesn't directly fund. Yeah, well, I suppose it all does go back. Yeah, it's complicated, isn't it? Look, that's the point, isn't it? It's so complex.
It is, yeah.
No one can understand it, so no wonder nobody can make any decisions because no bugger can understand the system. Yeah, it doesn't need to be that difficult, does it? But actually, you can't really change the existing systems. The only way you could change it is if it was all completely kind of stopped and started from scratch again. But how on earth could that ever happen? I don't know, without some sort of huge disaster that wipes it all out and we start again.
It needs massive reform. The whole system needs massive reform. And what they need to do is speak to people like you. Like that's what they need to do. They need to listen to people like you and actually start thinking about the child rather than the adult. I think it's all about solving the problem for the adult. I don't honestly don't feel like they care for the child. It's all about solving the problem for the adult and supporting the adult. And then once the child's 18, that's it.
I have seen some of the stuff that the local authority are doing is stuff that I was saying 3-4 years ago because I used to be involved in their strategy group and stuff. And there is some stuff that's creeping through, which is stuff that I've been saying for a long time. And they're making changes, and it's tiny steps, but it's tiny steps in the right direction. And I kind of think, I wonder if I was the instigator behind that. Probably not, because it's all common sense stuff. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to think of positive ways of working, being logical and the rest of it. So yeah, it's quite interesting. I mean, part of what we're about, I touched on it earlier, is Epic support. We will support you as a foster parent regardless of who you foster for. It's all about collaborative working in the best interests of the young people.
Yeah.
So if other fostering services and local authorities want to use our support groups, they can. It's not a bloody recruitment thing to get people to come and move over to us. That's not what it's about. It's about supporting people in the right way to do best by vulnerable young children.
Yeah, I love it. I like how you got 3 different aspects of it, and it's all evolving around children. and how best to support them in life and get through their trauma. Because I think this is what people forget about trauma as well, is it affects you for the rest of your life. So you having trauma at such an early age is going to affect you for the rest of your life, and you're going to deal with it for every day of your life. I do. So it's how you can best prepare that child to move into adulthood to be able to deal with that trauma and learn that it's not their fault, basically.
Yeah.
It's not rocket science, but yeah, no, it takes people like you to keep battling and creating what you're doing, what you are doing, Dan. I honestly take my hat off to you, mate. I think it's amazing. Just wanted to have one final question. What's next for Epic? What's next for you? What are you going to do next, mate?
Well, the last 18 months has really been very focused, and still to a degree is focused on the fostering element because of how highly regulated it is. It's been really, really a real intense piece of work to get it to where it is now. So what's next for Epic is for us to actually now get on and develop some of those services that was part of the very original concept within Epic Mentoring to support vulnerable children to stay in mainstream education. So to develop that and those support services, that all went kind of on hold whilst I focused on my hostel application. So I'm quite excited that actually that's our next bit of the journey, while still holding Epic Fostering and progressing that. So we've got our first few households coming through assessment now for Epic Fostering. So that's kind of the wheels are starting to turn, which is great.
So you're going to start having your first children soon then?
Yes. Yeah. We'll have our own children within the service. Yeah. It's quite exciting.
That's amazing, mate. Yeah. I'm really going to be intrigued in how those children get on and how you find supporting them and doing everything that you need to do with them. So we need to have a catch-up podcast in a few months' time, I think, 100%.
That would be great. So, yeah, I think middle of the year, we'd probably have some significant updates by that point. So, yeah, no, that would be great. And definitely stay in touch. You've been an inspiration for me as well, Matt. So something we've talked about is your support as an adult. And that's not something that was on our radar, really, for kind of care experienced adoptive people. It was always about supporting the vulnerable kids and those that support them. We'd not really looked at that area, but I think listening to you, I've now added that onto my list. So.
It's something I'm going to be doing. So I'm not just doing this podcast. I'm going to be looking into how I can create something to support people going through their care records and still carry on fighting Devon County Council for them to do something as well and get recognition for what I went through. It's a bit of a catch-22 for me because obviously what I went through as a child, Devon County Council knew before I was born. So, and I say that all the time. So I haven't got any qualms in saying that, but it's striking that balance with them because obviously I want to do what I do and then need to get some accountability for what they put me through, to be honest with you, because I think it was all preventable, 100%. But yeah, no. One last thing, where can listeners find Epic Fostering and Epic Support, mate?
Well, if they go on our main website, which is epicfamilycic.co.uk, that kind of signposts to all of our different areas, including social media and things like that. So we've got an Epic Family CIC Facebook page, but we've also got an Epic Fostering and an Epic Support separate Facebook pages as well. So they all have their own reasons for being there. So
cool.
Yeah, reach out, come and talk to us.
Yeah, I'll leave all your links in the description as well because you very kindly followed me. So yeah, I'll leave all your links in the description, mate. It's been really lovely speaking to you, Dan.
That's great. Thanks, Matt.
And that was Dan, someone who chose not to look away, but to step forward to listen and to be part of the change. Because real change doesn't just come and from lived experience. It also comes from people who are willing to stand beside it, learning from it and use their position to do better. And this conversation, this is just the beginning, because what you've heard today is opening the door for something bigger, more conversation, more honesty and more action. Through Epic support and One Set of Footprints, there's more to come. A growing collaboration focused on creating real support, real opportunities and real change for those who need it most, not just words, but work that actually makes a difference. This isn't just a podcast, it's a movement of voices that refuse to stay silent, because silence has a heartbeat and talking keeps it alive. This is One Set of Footprints, and next time we're going even deeper. We're joined by Robin from National Fostering Union, talking about rights, representation and why foster carers are finally starting to find their voice, because change isn't coming quietly, it's being demanded. Please like, share and follow. The bigger the podcast, the bigger the guest. Thanks for listening.